In my previous video, I talked about hint popovers and I mentioned there were some issues along the way, so I wanted to dive into that. Hint popovers initially landed in Chrome 133 and Firefox 149, so I set about doing one of these videos about it. I read through the spec and built demos to figure out how hint popovers worked compared to other popovers, but I failed. And I failed because the more I dug into the feature, the less sense it made. For example, I saw that you could open a normal popover and a hint popover tooltip at the same time, which is great. Unless you were inside a popover already. In that case, the hint popover would close the normal popover. And this wasn't a browser bug, it was in the spec, and it was in the tests. And it wasn't the only thing. I abandoned making the video and instead filed an HTML spec issue detailing 5 distinct popover behaviors that were internally inconsistent or just unhelpful. Google pushed back on this, saying no one else was complaining, so I gathered voices from other browser developers and web developers to show that the problems I'd identified were real. After some back and forth, Google agreed, and we worked together. I rewrote the spec to fix the behaviors, and they rewrote the tests. We reviewed each other's work and got additional reviews from Apple and Igalia. The fixed implementation landed in Firefox 153 and is due to land in Chrome 151 next week. Now, the way this initially landed badly is kind of on all of us. It should have had more review internally at Google, but it also should have had more review from the rest of us. It looks like it was reviewed and then the scope creeped and it didn't get enough review after that. But for me, this underlines the importance of having multiple engines involved in the web platform. For those that don't know, I was on the Chrome team for 10 years. I know that if I spotted this issue while I was at Google, I would have been put under pressure to keep quiet and not rock the boat. And this isn't because Google is evil, it's because big companies don't like reopening projects that were considered done. But at Firefox, we're a separate browser. We're deeply involved in the web standards and interop processes. And most importantly, we have our own engine, Gecko. There are many browsers out there, but only a few maintain their own engine, and that's Chrome, Safari, and Firefox, the engines being Blink, WebKit, and Gecko. And ours is the only major engine that isn't owned by a company that profits from its own walled garden native app platform. The engine is where the web platform features live. It's where web pages are rendered. So maintaining an independent engine gives us a much stronger voice in the web standards process and means that the design of web APIs isn't in the control of one corporation. Now, this is just an example of one case that I was personally involved in, but it's something that's consistently happening in the background. Even in the case of features that don't land in Firefox first, we are still fighting for these features to land correctly in a way that is best for web developers and users alike. All right, that's enough of that. I will be back here tomorrow in my Nebula or whatever this is to talk about another new web platform feature that landed in Firefox 153.